Yes, you should.
Going live. 3, 2, you're live.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ted Lupella, and I'm here with the Rush Tribute Project. Thank you for joining us for the YouTube live event. Sorry, Tom, I'm very close to Tom right here. And we're really happy that you're here with us tonight. We've got a few little things to take care of right off the bat. You're going to see me for a couple minutes, and then I'm going to disappear while we take your questions. We are going to have a Q&A session, so please make sure that you go out right onto YouTube and type your questions in. I have John that's over manning the video right now, and he will be taking care of that. So we'll monitor those, and we'll get to as many questions as possible. First thing we'd like to do is we'd like to thank you for joining us, and we want to thank all the fans and all the folks that are out there that have been to our shows and those who are following us on Facebook, YouTube, so on. We really appreciate your support. It's a wonderful thing, and it's just great to be able to play music and just enjoy your company and to be with you at these events. So, in terms of what we're going to be doing this evening, we're going to start out, as I had previously mentioned, that we're going to be doing a Q&A session. So we're going to have question and answers, followed by, I don't know, what do you guys think? Should we play some music tonight?
Yeah, maybe.
Sure.
Maybe a couple songs? All right. So it sounds good. So we're actually all set up, and yes, that was kind of a baited question, but
No.
as soon as we are finished with that, we're going to actually the band will take a little break. Everyone will be able to go get a drink or something, and then the band will get ready to play. And then afterward, just depending on what our time is like, we may even have time for a few more questions. So first thing is, I want to introduce the band. This is Sean Jones right here, lead vocals, bass, keys, everything under the sun. We have Tom Slonick, who's the drummer, as well as percussion and many other things. And we have Bill Heck right over here. Bill plays guitar and pedals and keys and everything. These gentlemen are very, very talented. I can only wish. As I'd mentioned, John is actually manning the video, and our John actually he takes care of all the video at our live shows, as well as he has other functions. I take care of production, and then we have Eric, who's not here. Eric, how you doing, buddy? He is Tom's drum tech, and we are a big team at RTP and enjoy being together. So most of the time at these events, we have folks that write in with their questions. They ask questions like, what is your favorite song? So Sean, what's your favorite song?
Changes every month or so.
Okay.
So-
How about current?
Does it have
I've
to?
never heard of that one.
Yeah.
Favorite Rush song or favorite song?
I don't know. I'll leave that
Tiptoe
up to
through
you.
the tube. No. Honestly, right now I'm really digging Hemispheres. We've been we'll talk about that in a minute, but we've been working on a lot of Hemisphere stuff, and I'm really, really loving the song.
Tom?
I'll go with that too, for the moment.
Well, I got to come up with something different then.
Sorry.
It does change from time to time. Always love Natural Science. Always been one of my favorites. I'll stick with that one today.
All right. So next question is a very popular question. What is the most difficult song to play? Sean?
Okay, so again, right now, just because of what we've been working on, because there's always like 2 or 3. Turn the Page. We're just dissecting it this week, and 6/4 bass over 4/4 drums and vocals makes the whole thing just a challenge until we get out of the verse.
Awesome. Tom?
Well, right now we're working on Superconductor, and that's a little challenging.
You wouldn't think, right?
I know.
It's one of those kind of sneaky hard songs.
Bill?
I've said it before. Headlong Flight for the timing.
Yeah.
As far as like pure playing. I don't know. I mean, it does kind of change. Driven is very tough.
All right. Well, before I leave your presence here and I man the Q&A along with John, a couple housekeeping things. We do have quite a few events coming up in the fall. Sean's going to elaborate on that and talk about those shows. We really would love to see you out there. We've got a big show coming up at the Pabst, as well as shows in various places in the United States. So thank you again, everyone. I'm going to turn it over to Sean, and we'll talk to you later.
You didn't know he was going to do that, did you?
Nope, but I do now.
Thank you, Ted.
Thanks, Ted. Hi, everybody. So just some business, before the Q&A answers. We have a bunch of shows coming up this fall. We're going to be pretty busy. We're going to be playing finally back in Wisconsin. We're going to be, we're in Watertown at a festival in 2 weeks on Friday the 13th. at Watertown
Riverfest.
Riverfest. We're going to be at the Palace Theater in the Dells a little bit later on. We're going to be, like Ted was alluding to, we're going to have a big show at the Pabst Theater in downtown Milwaukee. This will be the first time we've played in Milwaukee in 3 years, maybe even longer. I'd have to go back and look. And that's going to be a pretty special show because we are going to be doing the Tour of the Hemispheres show. The first set is going to be the entire show that they did in 1978. We picked a show that they had performed in Europe, and that's the set list that we're going to follow. So it's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of deeper cuts from those first 6 albums. It'll be the entire Hemispheres album through, not start to finish, front to back, but throughout the show. So yeah, we're really excited about that, especially because that was planned well over almost 2 years ago now, and it's been postponed for over a year. So we're really excited about that. We're also going to be back in Michigan. We're going to be in Indiana. We're going to be in Illinois. We're going to be in Missouri. We've got a bunch of shows over the next 9 weeks. I could list them all here, or I could direct you to rushtributeproject.com, where all of our shows and the times, locations, everything are. Also, we have them all up on Facebook as well. So if you're interested in coming to see us in those areas, then come on down. Now, we've also had a lot of people asking, hey, when are you going to play in X, Y, or Z in one of those places? So this year, we don't have time. We, starting in September until November, every weekend there's something. And so we're pretty much done for this year. We do have some shows already set up for next year. We are going to be back in Georgia. We are looking at getting booked in Texas, so we'll probably be back there. We're going to be in Omaha, Nebraska, and Iowa. Those are certain. And then we're also looking at some other Georgia and possibly Tennessee shows. And that's what's on the docket for right now. Come later on, we're going to have more announcements for next year. But yeah, we're gearing up to do a bunch of shows. One of the downsides with us actually having day jobs is that we only get a certain number of shows every year. And so we're probably going to be stuck at about 25, 30 shows. And so as they start filling up, you're going to see where we're going to be. We're going to do a good amount of traveling. We're going to try and get as close to a lot of you as we can. But again, we're going to run out of time at some point because we're pretty much stuck to long weekends for a lot of our longer trips. So anyway,
Well said.
so those are the announcements. That's what we got going on for right now.
All right, thank you, Sean. Appreciate that. John, we have any questions for the gentleman here?
We have several.
At least we know it's working, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mike Adams asked, "What's the airspeed of an unladen swallow?"
African or European?
Good distinction. There's some folks checking in from all over the world again, which is great.
Very
Thank
cool.
you.
Buenos Aires.
We've got folks from Europe. We got folks from obviously here in the Midwest. Everybody's saying hi.
Hello, everyone.
Here's a question. Joe Millo asked a question. Do you create your synth sounds or do you create samples from stems, isolated tracks?
Almost entirely making the synth sounds. There's a couple of sounds that are just on the album. They're very clear and they're obvious, like the beginning of 2112.
2112
I
would be
didn't make
perfect.
that, right? But no, almost all of the sounds that we have are either I created them using soft synths, or sometimes I created them using actual original synths and then sampled the synthesizer to play on there. So yeah, there's a handful of things taken from the albums, but I'm going to say 90-95% is stuff that I've made over the years.
John, you have anything here? Any good questions?
Let me find another one. Yeah, so this is a continuation of what Sean was talking about. There's a question about expanding shows nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we talk about the locations we play and why.
Okay. You want me to do it, or?
Sure.
You can start.
Okay. All right. So essentially, yeah, when we book shows, we're booking shows keeping in mind that we have to generally drive there. We have a lot of gear. We can't just show up to a place and have them supply gear for the most part. Like his drum kit, I mean, they're not going to have that, right? They're not going to have all of the specialized things that we have. And so we have to drive everything there. And so wherever we can drive within a comfortable time, usually within a 2-day span, Texas is a good example. That takes, you can do it in one day, but not and then play a show.
And we have
So-
done it, probably regretfully, but,
Yeah.
but yes, we have done it in a day.
So, going down there is like a 2-day trip. Going down to Georgia is a 2-day trip. Going out to the East Coast would be 2 days. Going west out to probably Colorado would be about as far west as we'd be able to drive. And anything further than that, it generally takes extra planning and work and so on. But yeah, we're generally open to anywhere that we can make it to, right? So where we have been going right now. So as far west as the Nebraska-Texas range. As far east, well, Georgia's pretty far east. We've played New York a couple times, but that was for private shows. And just mostly we haven't gotten gigs booked there. So the majority of the stuff that we do has been Midwest because it's easier to get to. It's where we are right now.
We've played Ohio quite a few times.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're starting to branch out, and we're seeing a lot of fans come from the Ohio area. We're really trying hard to get to Northeast Ohio because we've been pretty much concentrating in the Southwest
Yep.
area. So we are absolutely working on that, and hopefully we can be around somewhere around the Cleveland area soon. It's definitely something we're working on.
Yeah. We're also we're trying to get ourselves up a little further northeast towards Buffalo, Toronto. But again, there's nothing planned. We don't have anything booked yet, but that's where we're looking at next.
Well, here's an interesting, this is more of a statement, kind of a question. Who can pronounce Neil's name correctly?
That's your job.
Peart.
Thank you, Tom. That was a very interesting question. A lot of really positive comments. Well, someone said they think they're going bald. Okay, well,
Too late.
Sorry, well, I know I went bald, so nothing wrong with that. Please come to Charlotte, North Carolina. Would love to. Spirit of the Radio starts playing on Sirius XM in your car. Do you turn it up or change the station?
That's a good question.
That came from Jeff.
It's a good question. You guys first. I've been talking a lot.
I'll turn it up. I'm not sick of it yet.
I'll usually turn it off.
I'll absolutely turn it up.
The funny thing is that's happened to me a few times. It's like I'll be on my way to one of the shows, and all of a sudden here comes the Rush tunes, and so it kind of preps me for the show. But I usually listen to the music ahead of time anyway. Eric from Boston said, "Hi guys, love your performance. Did you have any newly written material to perform similar to Rush?"
Newly written, as in us writing.
Like our original material?
Must be. I think that's what he's referring to.
No.
The really short answer is no.
We have no time for that.
Yeah.
I always kind of looked at it. I mean, like I write some of my own things, and it's really nowhere near, what was written, from Rush. So I'm not even gonna try to go there. It's like,
People don't come to the shows to hear any of our songs if we had them. They want to hear Rush.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And and just to elaborate on that a little bit, we rock and roll is like the only type of music where that's the kind of a normal, really honest question. Do you do your own stuff? If we were playing classical music, no one's asking us what concerto we wrote. If we're playing jazz, no one's asking us if we wrote our own or if we're if we're doing something from a fake book or something. It's very much a rock and roll kind of thing. But most musicians aren't composers. Most musicians play, and we're not anywhere near their level as far as composing. And so, yeah.
no, I'd like to think we're much better players than writers.
Yes, I
That's the
agree
way I
with
always
that.
looked at it.
Hey, by the way, Rodrigo says hi to all
Hey,
of
Rod.
you.
Hey, Rod.
see you in a couple months.
We have a great question from Buenos Aires from Daniel Rosendo. He said, La Via is the most difficult Rush song to perform. How long did it take all of you to reach perfection? How about that?
I don't think we've reached perfection, and I'm not sure we ever will.
It's an ongoing process.
It is. Like for me, I mean, La Vila was one of the very first Rush songs that I tried to learn, and it took. It like you said, it's ongoing, but I remember as like a 14, 15-year-old working on La Vila and just giving it my best. So yeah, definitely not something that most people would be able to you learn it, and 2 months later they've got it perfected. No,
Yeah.
we're still working on them.
Yeah, and it's one of those things like this is our 8th year together, and it's taken this long for us to get pretty comfortable with it. You know, we could play it. We were able to make it through and play the parts, but it really wasn't until this year that we've actually, I think, gotten to the point where we're comfortable playing the song instead of, okay, let's not screw up this time kind of thing.
Yeah, this
You know.
this year, to kind of go off of that, this year is the first year I can remember playing La Vila and actually enjoying playing it.
Right, that's where I'm going.
Like,
with
it's
it.
really fun.
Yeah.
Whereas before it's just like,
Work,
oh
work.
no, here comes that part, you know. And no, it's taken a long time.
Here's a question for Sean. Sean, what was your very first bass guitar, and at what age did you start playing?
I didn't start playing till really late. I was 23,
Show
24
off.
when I started. My first bass that I owned a 69 Fender Jazz reissue. It was a 1990 model, and I still have it. It's an excellent bass. It's ugly. It's a cream yellow. But yeah, a jazz bass was the first one I actually played. I had borrowed friends' basses before I actually decided, all right, I'm going to spend the money. But yeah, I was a saxophone performance major in college, which has nothing to do with Rush. And it turns out that being a sax player, there aren't really any gigs or any money in that. And so a friend of mine asked me a long time ago, hey, we need a bass player for our band. You want to learn? And so that was when I started. And yeah, so that was, I'm going to say 23 or 24 is when I started.
So here's another question from Guac. They said, during the pandemic, you streamed some shows. Currently, would you consider streaming shows for those who cannot get to to see you online for free?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And so here's the dilemma that we have. Streaming a show is us putting up 10 cameras around a stage and having poor John, cycling through them, and it's a big production. Not terrible, but a big production. If we tried to do that in actual live show, we'd have cameras all over the place in the way of the audience. So that wouldn't be good. Also, when we do live shows at venues, they want people to come there and pay to see us play, right? They're paying us, and then they're going to get their money back by people coming and seeing us play. And so I don't think most of them would want us to do that. So I get it though, right? Because if you're not anywhere near where we're playing, you can't make the show, and we appreciate that. I just don't know if there's an easy way for us to actually make that happen at our regular shows. Would we do another streamed show at some point? That's a possibility. Right now we're so busy that we can't. But it's something to keep in mind.
Bill, I think this is a question from your wife. She wants to know, how is your XFX3 working out? And it actually came from Hot Rod Sprint, so I don't think it was from your wife.
Oh, okay. That's actually funny, because if it came from my wife, I'm like, I don't have an XFX3, but that sounds like an invitation to order one. I actually played through the XFX2 XL. The 3 is definitely one that I'm looking at. I'm kind of hoping for some Christmas deals to come around. They usually drop the price somewhere around the end of the year, but the Fractal XFX as a whole is really an incredible unit. It's not necessarily something where you just turn it on and the sounds are there. It's taken a long time. It's taken a lot of building and tweaking sounds, but they're there though. And I love the fact, and I'm going to get all the tube amp people all mad at me now, but I love the fact that you can really nail that tube amp sound. But as I said, it requires a lot of work to really get it. And there's constantly an argument of guitar players on whether the digital is as good as using tubes in old amps, and that argument will probably go on forever. But great piece of gear though.
Yeah.
And it's also nice to not have to carry big 4x12s and heads and all this stuff. We have enough stuff to carry.
Yeah.
So.
These two spend a lot of time on guitar sounds, an awful lot of time. So yeah, it does take a lot. I mean, the Fractal made it possible for us to be able to take our show on the road, essentially, because otherwise it would be a serious problem hauling 4x12s and cabinets and things like that, or we would just have not very good sounds. But they make it really as close as you can get.
Well, even when
live.
I listen back on like our first year, there's a lot of audio recordings kind of floating around, and this was previous to using a Fractal XFX. But I was doing the virtual thing. I think I was using a Boss GT something or another, GT Pro, I think it was. Which at the time I thought the sounds were really good, and I kind of listen to the two now and think, wow, it's like we sound wise we've really come a long way, and the technology's gotten a lot better too. So
A lot better. Yeah.
Here's a question from Donovan Zuzeldorf.
Donovan.
Besides All the World's a Stage and Exit Stage Left, do you like any other live albums, and which ones?
Absolutely.
I'll start with that. A show of hands has always been my favorite one, and I think part of it is because the first time I ever saw Rush was on that tour, so it kind of meant a lot. I remember when that video came out, and I'm watching. I'm like, I remember this is the exact show, and the CD that came out in conjunction with the video was kind of, those sets were a little bit different, but between the two, it's like I just loved it, and I would consider that my favorite live album.
Well, we got a tough one. John, you got a question?
There's a couple. So Chuck asked a question that I think he already knows the answer to, maybe, but it's a good question for the group. So, what was the biggest train wreck that ever happened live?
Live on stage with the three of us.
State Fair. Was that the?
No, that was a pretty quick
money-ish. Yeah.
I wouldn't even call that a train wreck because we recovered very quickly.
It was scary. So we're referring to a song where I started one song and they were expecting another song, and that was that was good. I'm playing keyboards on something and they're not expecting. That.
I think, if I remember right, I think we were playing After Image, and Sean started the Big Money.
Yeah, it was the Big After Image.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But Tom and I both had the oh crap moment where we looked at each other like, what's going on? He kept going, and
You follow me.
It's like we followed the singer right off the cliff.
Yeah.
No, it actually was a pretty quick recovery. I don't know if we've ever had
Makes
any
you
like.
seasick. But
I don't know if we've ever had any like.
not major crash and burns.
No.
Lights going out?
Well, okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
there's
there's
that.
technical thing. We've had power go out at times.
I've popped strings during songs before.
We had in Western Illinois, there was a 100-degree day. We were playing in the sun, and despite all of the cooling, my laptop, which has my keyboard sounds loaded in it, overheated. And so we basically had to stop. I mean, we finished the song, and then we just did a bunch of old songs until we could take a break and cool it down. But yeah, no, we've been really lucky. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. We spent the better part of a year and a half in the basement before we actually went out to really start playing, and so we were ready for eventualities like that. And then they happen, right? We make mistakes all the time, and we do what we can to recover from them quickly.
And mistakes will be made. I mean, we're aware of that. No show has ever been perfect, and probably will ever be perfect, and we're okay with that.
Hey, here's a question for Tom. When emulating Peart, I'll say it correctly, what takes priority on your approach to performance, technique, tempo, feel, or composition?
Yes.
That's a great question.
There you go.
Oh, come on.
Next question, John.
Come on.
What do you think about the most? Like when you're working on a piece?
Tempo, first of all. You got to get the right speed. And then a lot of times if you have the right tempo and the right feel, you have the right technique, because it's kind of built in. Trying to not rush things, as they say, is hard to do at first, and the longer you play, the more at ease you are at playing difficult songs.
Yeah.
It's a tendency to speed up when you're nervous and really trying to nail something, but the key is to keep it scaled back and keep the right tempo going and just relax.
We should point out that Tom has an incredibly consistent tempo.
Yes, he
Which
does.
is really critical for this.
That helps.
Especially when he's got two guitar players that don't. So
Ray had asked earlier, what do we think the estimate of the crowd was in Rosemont?
They said
And is-
2,500.
Okay.
yeah, Rosemont, by the way, it's an outdoor festival. They every Thursday night in summer they have tribute bands at a really nice. At, I don't remember the name of the field anymore. It was NB Financial down in Rosemont. Very very cool place. Lots of good bands. Worth checking out if you're in the Chicago area.
I think there was a very famous person. This person might be like a producer in Nashville. His name is Charles Bruce. He said, they're not mistakes, they're new parts and interpretations.
Correct.
So,
Good answer, Chuck.
and it's, the band knows Chuck, so a little jest going on right there, folks.
Ray had also asked a follow-up, which was, is that the largest crowd we've played for, or what would be the largest thing?
I think it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Rosemont.
yeah. Rosemont's consistently been the most.
Yeah, you can fit a lot of people there, and it's free, so more people will come.
So there was somebody from Utah that said, does anyone know who the sound engineer is for the Rush Tribute Project?
Never met him before.
No.
No.
I think, don't you use a different one for every show?
Yeah.
So yeah, in case you missed it in the beginning, Ted is our sound man. He does all the production for us.
And lights.
So if we
Production,
suck,
yeah.
blame him.
It's my fault. I do have a suck knob on my mixer, so I have to be treated well, otherwise I will turn that on. So.
So Dave Sundin had asked.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Would you ever perform the entire Test for Echo album or Clockwork Angels?
Oh boy.
So here's the thing: we don't have a problem playing anything, any of those. The question is, who's going to pay to see it, right? I love the Test for Echo album. I'm probably in the minority, but I think it's a great album. But there's, I don't know, 12 songs on there, and people know 2 or 3 of them. I mean, that's a lot of deep cuts. And so one of the things, when we put our show together, and this is actually, I've seen some comments online about this, and this is kind of a good thing to tackle, and that is, like, when we choose a song selection, we choose our set list, right? Every Rush cover band, Rush tribute band, whatever you want to call them, they all play the same 12 songs. Well, yeah, they do. Because when we go to a show, you're going to have people that haven't seen you before. I ask that question pretty much every show. How many people is the first time seeing? Well, if it's your first time seeing, maybe Tom Sawyer is one of your favorite songs. And you've seen us before, you've seen us play it before, you want to hear some deep cut. Well, they've never seen it before, right? And there's always going to be a lot of people who are maybe casual fans that don't know a lot of deep cuts. And so we have to play those songs. And so once we get the songs that everyone knows in our set list, then we start adding songs that we think are going to fit, that maybe that venue hasn't heard before, or we have a lot of random criteria that we use to come up with that.
They're ones we just want to try. Too.
Yeah,
Just see
absolutely.
like, hey, well, let's give it a shot. We're not sure if it's going to work or not, but
We always
let's
have
give it
like
a
1 or
shot.
2 in a full show. But that's the other thing, is that some of our shows are very short. Like let me rephrase that. Are shorter than our typical shows. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Oh, we're losing them.
Cough button.
Yeah, right. I got some dust in me, sorry.
Well, hey,
go ahead.
while Sean is choking there,
Woo!
I'm going to say thank you to the Food
Inhale the
Experience for your nice comments about the band. I know that they work very hard to keep the music very accurate. So thank you, Food Experience.
Food experience.
Yep, the Food Experience.
Nice.
So,
All right.
Excuse me, I'm back. Sort of.
Well, I can like. Well, okay. Clockwork Angels.
Yeah.
There's a ton of orchestration behind that as well, and we actually did talk about like what would it take to hire like an 8-piece string section, and in general it would take more money than we have because we're not gonna find 8 people that are just looking for something to do, and we'll do it for cheap. So we have talked about Clockwork Angels, and I think we all kind of agree that would be a great album to try, or at the very minimum, dig into some of those deep cuts, because that's some great material. And but we want to do it right. We don't want it to sound empty. If people on the live stream, if you had seen Rush on the Clockwork Angels tour, yeah, you know exactly what what happens when you load up the stage with orchestration like that.
Yeah.
It was an amazing show.
So one last to the kind of set list topic. Seth had asked, what 90s record can we expect to hear the most of live over the coming months?
90s, huh? Well,
It's gonna alter for sure. But
yeah, depending on the show. Like we're doing stuff off of Counterparts. We're doing stuff off of Roll the Bones. We're doing stuff off of Test for Echo.
we've got some songs off of Presto we're working on.
Yeah, that's 89. But yeah,
So we're definitely trying to hit them all. As far as what we're gonna play the most, I don't think there really is an answer to that because we're constantly moving things around and
Yeah.
try to keep it pretty equally spaced. So
yeah. One of the things about our sets is that we try not to repeat ourselves. There are times where we're really close. If we're doing a long weekend in two different places, the shows will be pretty similar. But I mean, we got to make it a little bit different. Otherwise, people aren't going to keep coming back to see the exact same 28 songs, But just going back to what I was saying before about
before we lost
yeah,
you.
before he lost me. Sorry about that. I inhaled a piece of dust right when I was talking. Our shows, when we do a full show, are 3.5 hours, which is a very long time. Most festivals and casinos and things like that, they have 75 to 90-minute slots. And so if we're playing a festival, we're not playing a lot of deep cuts because we just simply don't have time. But when we do a theater show, for example, like first week in September, we're going to be at Dayton at the Masonic Center. Beautiful, beautiful theater. We get to choose, and so it's going to be 3 hours, and so or 3+, and so we're going to be able to fit some deep cuts, some longer songs, and things like that in that show. But the festival, for example, on the 13th in Watertown, it's a 90-minute set because it's a festival, and so we'll have a couple. We're going to do some songs that we want to play, but it's going to be a lot of hits because that's all we have time for.
So we actually have a very interesting question. Jeff Postles said his wife loves Rush, and you guys, let's see, she wants to know what you think the percentage of women at your shows are.
Well, I could start with that. I do most of the Facebook activity and look at the analytics, and our percentage of men versus women is right around like 85% to 15% men versus women. So
Yeah, and the shows,
I think at the shows we do a little better than that.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know why I'm looking at you to answer this one, but
This sounds like a question from the movie Rockstar. That was, let's see, the guys buy the records, and then they show them to their girlfriends or their wives or so on, and then the girls come to the shows. It's a long. You have to see the movie Rockstar, but that's actually something that they talk about in that movie. So, John, you have any interesting questions?
Yeah, so this is a topic that comes up pretty consistently, which is around, have you had any interaction with the band, and what do they think of your playing?
So, if you would have asked us before we went to Detroit this year, we would have said we have no idea. So, at Detroit, we, through a roundabout email chain, one of the promoters at one of the shows had sent some of our clips to Getty because he has a relationship with him, and so he's heard them, and he was very complimentary. But whether he was impressed or whether he was just being nice to get the guy to shut up, we don't know, right? So we know they've seen us and they haven't sued us, so that's about as much as we got.
Interesting. Other questions, John?
When are we going to play?
So how much, there's a question here about from Bruce Smith, how much preparation do you put in for a 3-hour show?
Days and days.
That's a hard one to answer because, we've been prepping a lot of this stuff for about 8 years, right? But, for example, for a big show where we've got new tunes that we haven't played before, we're going to have multiple rehearsals and then our own practice and along with that. So, days is very true. How many depends on how big the show is and what we're doing.
and our practices are pretty intense.
And long.
They usually involve starting around typically on a Saturday, usually around 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. somewhere around there, and we pretty much start playing, and we don't stop playing until around 3. No break, no food, no nothing. It's like you play,
Chain them
So-
to the post.
That's right. It's like, we're not going anywhere.
And we'll do a song over, 2-3 times if it really needs work, and then we'll move on to another one. And usually we'll concentrate on the ones we don't do as much.
You know, there's a general expectation with our practices that we try to come here ready to nail these songs.
Yeah.
We don't really come here to work on songs as much. We play them, see where we're at, and then fix what's broken.
Yeah, putting them together is why we're in
Yeah.
rehearsal. Yeah.
Well, in addition, spoken from a technical standpoint, I know that there's a lot of prep behind the scenes too, and getting ready for the shows, and making sure that you're seeing consistent performances in terms of, you know, the lighting, the sound, the video, and everything else. So that's one thing that I will say, working with RTP for the last 6 years, that has been one of the coolest things, that we are a well-oiled machine. So when we go into a show, everybody knows their part, and it's wonderful from my standpoint to be able to work with a band that is prepared and ready to give you the best.
So Chuck might be using his last question,
Yeah, it's like, Chuck, how many questions?
We're going to cut you off, man.
but he asked if you've ever done any medleys or would consider doing medleys.
Yes, we've.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, we did a couple times. We're not very good at them for some reason, and I'm not sure what it is. I think it's just, first of all, like we don't really like doing medleys unless it's something that's been done by Rush. Okay, so you know, we try to keep it true, and they didn't do a lot of medleys. They did a few in their later years when Getty, you know, couldn't hit. What show was that? Was that our
R30 was when it started.
R30?
They opened with that.
Where they opened with, you know, he had Finding My Way and Anthem, but they were all instrumental because those would have killed Geddy Lee. So, so we've been asked about that one before, but flat out, it's like Sean can sing these and sing them really well. So we don't want to skip over things like, you know, like vocals. So we, in general, we haven't done a lot of them.
Yeah.
We tried a couple, and they.
Yeah.
We even tried one where I don't remember what we mixed it in with, but we actually tried Take Off, the whole Bob and Doug McKenzie thing, and we threw that in the middle of something, and I think
Bad.
I think like 10 people thought it was, you know, They Died and Went to Heaven, and everybody else, John was one of them, and everybody else was like, what was that? You know,
It's also a thing, like, if you're going to see a tribute band and they start playing a deep cut, you want to hear that whole song, right? You don't want to just hear the first 2 minutes of it, because, I mean, that's something you don't get to see, right? You don't see, you know, pick your song. Jacob's Ladder. You don't see Jacob's Ladder outside of Exit Stage Left, right? And so to be able to see the whole song being played is a pretty cool experience. It's something I would want to see if I were there, so, you know.
Well, here we are. We're at about 8:37. There's still more questions. A lot of wonderful compliments. Thank you, folks, for nice compliments. Bill's tones. I want to mention that you're
Thank you.
spot on, and you know, great compliments about Tom and as well for Sean. Thank you, folks. So, what do you say? You want to head over and play a little music?
let's play a couple, and we'll come back and answer some more questions.
Sounds great. All right, everybody. It's potty time, and go get a drink. See you. in a
Let's
few.
all go to the lobby.
Check 1, 2. All right. I think we're ready to go. All right.
A whirlwind comes arising across the cities of the plain. There's no swimming in the heavy water, no singing in the acid rain. Red alert, red alert. It's so hard to stay together, passing through revolving doors. We need someone to talk to and someone to sweep the floors. Incomplete, incomplete. The world weighs on my shoulders, but what am I to do? It sometimes drives me crazy while I worry about you. I know it makes no difference, too much is going through. When I see the tip of the iceberg, and I worry about you. Cruising under your radar, watching from a satellite. Take a page from the red book and keep them in your sight. Red alert, red alert. Left and right's a passage, black and white's a view. You can face the knowledge that the truth is not the truth. Obsolete, absolutely. The world weighs on my shoulders, but what am I to do? Sometimes drive me crazy while I worry about you. I know it makes no difference, too much is going
right. Yeah. So we're gonna take another quick break for Q&A for a little bit, and then maybe come back and do another tune or two.
For those of you who may not have heard that, Sean had just mentioned, because the sound guy muted it, but we're going to take just a couple minutes here. They're going to come back for another Q&A.
Sure. Hey, John, can we move the camera? So we can just stand here?
Eating crackers like crazy.
Okay,
We're back.
we're back. All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for just a couple minutes here. John was just adjusting the cameras, and we're just trying to get things worked out so that way you can see and hear everyone. They're not hearing anything. Let's try this.
There we go.
How about now? Can you hear us now, everybody? I bet that's going to be a little bit better.
Can you hear me now?
So, with a couple different microphones and a couple different setups, we have things a little bit different. Well, welcome back. We're here. The boys are going to do another Q&A. So, if you have good questions, please let us know.
But only good questions.
Only good questions. Bad questions, sorry. Bravo from Mike Adams. I don't know. Is that good or bad?
That's good. We're good. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
All right. Let's see what we have here. How long have you guys been playing Rush together?
8 years.
8 years together. I've been in a couple of other acts for about 20, but yeah, these guys, 8 years.
So let's see what else we have here. It says, Lauren from hometown, Le Studio, Morin Heights, Quebec. I didn't say Quebec. Canada would like to congratulate you three guys on very professional tribute to the band. Morin Heights welcomes you. Bless you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Let's see what else we have.
So this one is a topic that has come up before, but I think it's a good one to address here. Is do you have a particular favorite Rush era, and what would that be for each of you?
Okay, I'll start this time. And the answer is I don't. With very few exceptions, I like most of the songs on pretty much all of the albums. If I had a least favorite, I would say Snakes and Arrows, but even then, I like the album. I really dig all the different things they do. So for me, the answer is no.
I don't really have one either. They're all good.
For me, I mean, it kind of changes. Definitely the Farewell to Kings, Hemispheres, Permanent Waves, Moving Pictures era has got to be the top for me. But at the same time, it's like Presto is absolutely one of my favorite albums. I had said earlier that was the that was the second tour I ever went on. But even Hold Your Fire, Presto, Roll the Bones. It's like I love those albums. All for their own various reasons. If I had to pick a least favorite, it's probably the first two albums. The first album, it's a fun album, it's a good rock album, but it doesn't speak Rush to me quite the same way as the others. And Fly By Night, I felt like they were just, they were really, starting to hit their stride, but I didn't feel like they had quite hit it at that point.
Not until the Necromancer.
Not until the Necromancer. There you go. Even Curse of Steel, I love. That's a great album.
Someone asked a question that's similar, and Tom, you should probably answer this one, seeing that you have a Queensryche hat on. What is your favorite band?
Besides Rush, Queensryche.
That's another tough one for me. Yeah, I mean, Rush is always there. I love the Guitar Hero stuff, the Eric Johnson. Joe Satriani has always been one of my absolute favorites to listen to and to attempt to play. Other than that, I'm kind of a metal fan. Like I love like Ride the Lightning from Master Puppets. The second and third album from Metallica. big influences on me. Still love those to this day.
And I am the polar opposite.
Yes, you are.
My next favorite band, along with Rush, in the same kind of vein, to be Yes. I'm very much old school progressive rock fan. I love 70s British progressive rock, Genesis, ELP, Yes, Gentle Giant. I mean, just a whole bunch of that kind of thing. And so for me, that's where I fall in with Rush. Like, to me, because they do such a good job of blending the heavier sound with that kind of progressiveness.
Here's a question for our movie buff. How many times have you seen the movie, is it I Love You, Man?
At least 5, I will say.
Slap in the bass?
Yeah, slap in the bass.
Twice. Can't get over the cheesiness of it.
I don't really see movies that often. So, yeah.
I have one.
All right.
So, one of the questions here was, do you play any other instruments besides the ones you play in the Rush Tribute Project?
Well, you might as well start with that because you were
Yes, the answer is yes, I do. So I said earlier I went to school for saxophone performance. Well, that means you learn to play saxophone and clarinet and flute. I was also in drum corps when I was a kid, so I was also playing trumpet, cornet, French horn, baritone. I mean, so I play a lot of instruments. Well, nah, I'm not going to perform too many of them. But yeah, I obviously keyboards and piano and that kind of thing. I don't play guitar particularly well.
But he's done it.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen it.
And we have no video evidence, so there we go.
I do.
Oh.
Tom, don't you play the triangle?
Yes.
lead triangle.
And the kazoo and
Ah,
the,
right, the kazoo.
spoons.
Yeah.
And the
There we go. Obviously, mainly guitar. A little bit of bass guitar. Just I dabble, but little piano.
Bill's a great drummer. He's a great drummer.
He's giving me the drummer thing. So I can probably pull off on drums most of the first album of most of Rush's first album. Basically means that I can keep like a good 4/4 beat. I wouldn't call myself advanced on drums, but every now and then I get the opportunity when Tom's off somewhere else and we need a sound check. I'm like, I'll do it.
Tink.
Yep.
Tink.
So you got one? The synth question?
There was a couple times now folks asked, where are you based out of?
Tom's basement.
Milwaukee.
Yes, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
And then there's another question about what synth sounds do you primarily use?
So, if we're talking synths, the actual synths that I use Apple stuff, and so they have a bunch of very good VSTs. The retro synth that they have is very flexible and does a whole lot of the ARP and Moog sounds. They also have a pretty good FM synth for that, like that early '80s kind of Grace Under Pressure-ish sound. And then I have a couple of things that I bought, like the Waldorf PPG, which does that PPG sound from The Big Money and Hold Your Fire. It has those kinds of sounds in them. And a good friend of mine bought one of their Rode keyboards, one of Rush's Rode keyboards at one point, and had the sounds still in them. So the V50 that Dan had purchased, I actually got some really, really good sounds that they used on tour with that. So because their stuff is so different depending on what album it is, there's no any one synthesizer that I use. It's just whatever we need.
So someone asked, Mike Fitzgerald asked, do you try to replicate any of the lighting and visuals when you play?
That sounds like a TED question.
I didn't make it up, honestly.
Short answer, yes. Long answer, we don't have that money, we don't have that personnel, we don't have that time. And so we have a very stripped down version of that. But absolutely, I mean, there's some things that they do that we think are really cool that we want to try and bring that feel, right? Because our whole goal is to bring that live feel, that live Rush concert feel, right? On a much smaller stage, because that's what we are. So things like lasers, right?
Screens, movie screens.
Yeah, and that's another thing that we've kind of built into the show in the last couple of years, where we added video. It started off like we had a few songs that we had some backing video, and we've gotten to the point where we're trying to add video to everything. And if there's no like programmed video, you know, like renderings and things like that, we tried. You know, John, who's sitting right over here. We're trying to bring cameras into our shows so we can at least keep these screens, you know, filled with an image of something. But it's a work in progress. Right now we're using like ultra short throw projectors. The problem is outdoor shows. If it's not really dark, you pretty much can't see anything. So yeah, we're always looking to upgrade. We're looking to you know, put on a better show, make it as authentic as possible.
Got another one. If
Sure.
we want to switch topics here. So first and last Rush tours you attended.
My first one was '88. Hold Your Fire. Last one I saw was, I guess it would be Clockwork Angels. Both times in Milwaukee. I think Hold Your Fire was actually at Mecca, and then the Clockwork Angels would have been at the Marcus.
My first was A Farewell to Kings at the Auditorium in Milwaukee. And then the last one was, yes, I'm old,
I was 3 when that album came
R40.
out.
I saw the same one.
And you were there, weren't you? Yeah.
Last one was R40 in Chicago.
Yeah, I saw R40 in Chicago. My first one was Presto at Alpine Valley.
Great show.
Yeah, that was a great show.
Both of them.
Yeah, yeah.
They were there twice.
So Ray wanted to know something about, let's see, Ray is a friend of the band, and he said, my wife Leslie wants to know what drum corps Sean played in. She played in the Northern Airs.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So it was in high school or like early high school. So I was in the Madison. Excuse me. This is
There's a lot of dust in this
We're
piece.
going to get a new singer here.
seriously the Madison Junior Scouts. Pardon me. My goodness. I'm gonna stop talking for a second.
All right. Got another one there, John? Otherwise, I've got a couple here.
So I think Mike has asked us a couple times. He wants to know if you'll play The Seeker, and maybe we can talk about playing covers of.
It's a good topic. We haven't. I mean, kind of our rule has been people really don't want to see a cover band playing a song that's covered by. How am I supposed to trying to say? You understand what I'm saying, but
I want to hear Rush.
so no, we haven't. I think we've jammed it before just for fun, but we've never introduced any actual covers into a show.
There's too many good Rush songs to skip over to put something like that in.
Well, and the other thing is like The Seeker. The reason why that was on feedback, and the reason they brought that and a few others onto that was R40, wasn't it? Or
No, that was.
I forget which tour, but the reason they brought that up is because these were songs. I think Getty had said these are the songs we loved when we were younger.
Yeah.
So we can't really say that. I mean, maybe we love some of the same songs, but it wouldn't quite have the same meaning.
So someone asked, John D. asked, have you considered going full-time with this? The audience is definitely there.
This John D?
So the audience might be, but the money isn't. Because Rush, I mean, they charge $50, $60, $70 a show, towards the end. We can't do that. We wouldn't do that. And so, yeah, we don't make enough to do it full time. It would be.
We'd have to play probably. The problem is we'd have to play so many shows.
That maybe
And there's just no way. I mean, like if we'd have to space them geographically so far apart, because otherwise, people aren't going to see us 10 times in playing in the Milwaukee area within a year. I mean, there might be a couple that do, but in general, it's like, yeah, if you've seen a show, what's the incentive to go and see it again? We'd love to, but
Yeah, it'd be great,
there just isn't a way to make
yeah.
it happen right now.
So here's a question. Have you ever met Rush? Sean?
I have not.
So I've met Getty a couple times, yeah. Mostly at like CD and book signings. So nothing serious, nothing more than 10 seconds of, hey, love your stuff, here, thank you, kind of thing. But that's it.
I have not.
I have not either. So
Do you play different strings?
funny.
Yes.
We
Yes,
just
do.
did about 2 hours ago.
Yeah, so we've played the whole Permanent Waves album. We've done an album show, which is probably something we're going to bring back a little bit later this year. I think one of the shows, we've talked about it, one of the shows that we do sometime in September, October, we're probably going to do Permanent Waves. So yes, the answer is yes.
All right. I think we're kind of running low on questions. It's 9:07.
That's okay.
Okay.
So,
Should we play a couple more?
so what does everybody think? Should the band play a couple more songs? Let's see what the responses are.
See if I can breathe first.
Yes.
I think we'll do that. All right.
There'll be one person listening. That's good.
We did get a yes.
Okay, at least we got one.
Yes. Hell yeah.
Okay.
From Mike Fitzgerald. Yes, please. Oh, well, here they're coming now.
That was the delay.
Yeah, exactly. All right. All right, I think I have a voice again for a reason. All right.
My uncle has a country place no one knows about. He says it used to be a farm for the mountain law. And on Sundays I am moving eyes and hobbit my friends. Till far outside the water am I waiting and waits. Jump to the ground as the turbo slows across the borderline. Ride like the wind as excitement shivers up and down my spine. Down in his bones, my uncle is up for me an old machine. For 50 hard years, to keep him as new as been his dearest dream. I strip away the old debris that finds a shining part. 8 billion red parts shattered from bomb better vanished time. We'll fire up the wheeling engine, responding with a roar. Tires spitting grappled by commit, my weary crying. Wind in my hair, shifting and drifting. Mechanical music adrenaline surge. Velvet leather, hot metal and oil, the scent of country air. Sunlight and chrome, the velvet on skin, and we never wear. Suddenly ahead of me, across the mountainside, a gleaming alloy car shoots towards me, 2 lanes wide. I spin around with shrieking tires, run the deadly race, go screaming through the valley as another joins the chase. To ride like the wind, straining the limits of machine and man. Laughing out loud with fear at home, but got a desperate plan. At the 1-lane bridge, I meet the giant stranded at the riverside. Race back to the farm, retreat with my uncle at the fire's side. When the ending tide retreats along the rocky shoreline, it leaves a trail of tidal pools in a short-lived galaxy. Each microcosmic planet, a complete society. kind of mirror to reflect upon our own. Cause in a spiral array of patterns so young and complex, time after time they lose sight of the way our causes can see their effects. A quantum leap forward in time and space.
bit after 9. Oh, it's like 9:25. So I think we're going to call it a night. It's Sunday. It's late. Y'all got to be up. We got to be up. Thanks for sticking around and hanging out with us tonight. We always enjoy doing this, and it's great to be able to play a few tunes for y'all. So hope to see you at some upcoming shows. We got a bunch. RushTributeProject.com, Facebook, Rush Tribute Project. Take a look, see where we're playing. All of our dates are up there, and times and locations and all that. All right. Thank you very much.